Wikileaks has said that they have given legal and diplomatic advice to Edward Snowden. They've also said that he left Hong Kong and that he was on his way on a safe route to Ecuador. That's really all we know right now. That he's left Hong Kong and he is on a safe route to Ecuador, where he has applied for political asylum. And as you explained, they had given political asylum already to Julian Assange, and I believe there is a strong basis for giving political asylum to Edward Snowden as well, which I can explain.
In the midst of all this, we understand the United States has revoked Edward Snowden's passport. What's the significance of this?
You know, the United States here is trying to bully Snowden, other countries in particular, into trying to get him back into the United States. They don't really have a legal basis for it. As far as I know, there's no international arrest warrant for Edward Snowden. There's these 3 charges that they unsealed in a leak, apparently, that's not even a spokesperson saying, here they are, this is what they are. They're trying to bully other countries, not only by pulling his passport away so he can't travel, but by saying, send him back to us, don't take him in, there'll be consequences. But none of those are legal. They're all just a big country beating up on small countries. And to the extent, or other countries that they just want to intimidate, whether it's China or Russia or whatever. But the real point here is that some countries are willing to stand up to the United States right now. Ecuador seems to be one of them.
Why don't you go on explaining what you were just going to say about the significance of what's happening with Edward Snowden right now?
What people fail to understand is that getting asylum is based on your persecution because of your political opinions. That's something that's recognized in the Refugee Convention, the asylum treaties, et cetera. All the world recognizes that. Even the United States recognizes that. And interestingly, political opinion is often considered to be, by many countries, to protect whistleblowers. Whistleblowers who talk about the corruption of their governments, the deceits of their governments, and the criminality of their governments are considered to be expressing political opinions and are protected by the Refugee Convention. In fact, they're protected. Unfortunately, the only country right now that seems to be willing to protect people like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden is Ecuador, at least the only one that's come forward in the way Ecuador has. And the United States has actually applied that very convention and protected whistleblowers from other countries, whether China or some other countries in Africa, and actually applied that. So for the United States to now be saying we should get our hands on him and he shouldn't get asylum is really contrary to the law. I mean, his application for asylum, in my view, much like Julian Assange's, has tremendous validity.
You know, it is very difficult to really know actually what's happening at this point. Technically, we don't even know that he left Hong Kong. It's not that people reported seeing him on a plane, or do we know this, Michael Ratner?
We only know it from WikiLeaks tweeting it and saying it, that he has left Hong Kong on his way to Ecuador and has taken a safe route. That's the main information that I have about it, and that's the information we have.
Michael, you are the attorney for Julian Assange. You're one of the attorneys for WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks has been tweeting that they are providing legal assistance to Edward Snowden. Are you involved with giving that legal assistance?
No, I'm not. In fact, I'm not at all. I woke up in the morning and saw that Edward Snowden had left Hong Kong on the tweet, and that's as much as I know about the legal advice and assistance that was given by WikiLeaks.
And so we understand that he moved on to Russia, and then there were reports, and Glenn Greenwald just repeated them, the reporter who released the number of the documents that Ed Snowden leaked to him. Glenn Greenwald said that the reports were he landed in Russia, might have gone to the Venezuelan or Ecuadorian embassies overnight, and then was headed on to Cuba. Can you explain what the logic is of this route? Cuba as another transit point to then go on to, is it your understanding at this point, Ecuador?
You know, it's interesting to me. I mean, what's happened in the world, certainly since the end of the Cold War, is the United States has been so incredibly dominant that it can bully militarily, economically, politically, almost every country in the world. And it's very difficult to take it on, to reveal, as these people have, as Ed Snowden has, the massive surveillance system on all of its citizens. So how do people protect themselves when there's really countries that are dominated so forcefully by the United States? And there's very few places they can do that. They can do that maybe in a big country like Russia, which is willing to take on the United States on a number of issues, or they can do it in a place like Cuba, which since the revolution in 1959, has been willing to be a haven for people who are taking on the United States and to try and find its own way in the world apart from U.S. hegemony. And they can do it now in places in South America, perhaps Ecuador, as has been stated, where they have received the application for asylum, perhaps places like Venezuela, Bolivia, other places that are trying to get independent of the United States. So the route has to be he has to go has to be one in which he can be protected from the long arm of the United States, which will do anything it can to stop this massive surveillance system that it's running from being exposed where it can be debated. And that's one of the things I want to say about this. What Glenn said, and about the sadness of seeing all these politicians, Democrats and Republicans, and all the journalists line up and say, this person has to be gotten, whatever legal means, whether they consider rendition legal, I don't know, is really awful to me, because what we ought to be discussing is this massive surveillance program on all of us, on you and I, on everybody in America, on people all over the world. And that's what, when you hear Dianne Feinstein say, well, we need a balance, even if you agree you need a balance, which I don't think there's a balance about my privacy versus national security, but even if you assume you need that balance, we don't have anything like that. We have total transparency of everything you and I do and every social interaction of all of us in the world, and we have complete opaqueness on what our government does. So what we ought to be discussing is not about where he's necessarily going. Of course, that's a concern, or not about how the members of Congress are trying to say, let's get him, or the media saying, let's get him. Why aren't we talking about, in the national media or in our Congress, about the very fact that we have a massive surveillance world now in which the United States and the UK and other countries are controlling, by information, everything we can do?
Michael, what about the criticism of Edward Snowden, that he had channels that he could have gone to raise concerns that there are protections of whistleblowers in the United States?
I think Glenn answered that forcefully. We know what's happened to some other whistleblowers who've done that. Tom Drake has talked about that, I think, as to what happened when he tried that. But I think the real point, and I think Glenn made it really well, is that every branch of this government, Congress, the courts, or the secret court, to the extent they've approved this material, the president, they're all in cahoots in this massive surveillance system, and they've agreed to it. And you can see that now as they come out. So where is a whistleblower going to go but outside to journalists? And that's why journalism plays such an important and crucial role. I mean, that's why independent journalism is just so crucial in getting at government criminality and government deceit.